No shoes. Oh man. What are the origins of the name Simon the Mighty?
Well, Terry, my one of my older brothers, David's the eldest, but Terry's the one above. He was already calling himself Terry the Great.
All right.
And I was like, well, if you're going to be Terry the Great, I'll be Simon the Mighty.
Right, Simon, let me tell you a story, okay? I'm in Tokyo in 2004 for the World Unicon, the World Unicycle Championships, and I'm in there in the audience, and I'm watching all the artistic routines going on, and then suddenly this guy appears with no shoes on, some sort of red or orange suit, and everybody's roaring with laughter, and then the suit comes off, and you've got this bizarre kind of blue bodysuit on underneath, and the music's changed, And you do this amazing unicycle routine that gets the crowd up and everybody's cheering and laughing and clapping. That was you, buddy, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was me. I was there. I remember it.
It was brilliant. I'll put a link in. I'll put a link
thanks.
I'll put a link in the podcast so people can have a look at the video of that. That was such fun.
Yeah, it's on YouTube, and I think you might have even videoed it at the time.
I've got my own video of it. Yeah, we should put that up as well.
Yeah.
So that's Tokyo 2004, the World Unicycle Championships.
Yep, that's right.
Where did that blue and white bodysuit come from? Was that specially made for that?
Yeah. My sister had a bit of a skill for sewing machine, and she was making a bit of costumes at the time, and it was my idea. Like, there was purple and there was sequins, and I'm not sure if there was purple feathers on the shoulders in my Unicon performance, but the first time I did it, the Australian Nationals, they were on there.
Oh, fantastic.
And it was inspired. It was a bit, it was meant to surprise.
Oh, it did that. It was brilliant. It was really good. What a breath of fresh air. It was so much fun. So different to the other acts. It was great. Really good.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure I was, if not the only, I was one of the only acts that had much experience doing it as a job as well. Like as an entertainer. I think Daiki from Japan is at least a professional entertainer these days.
Yes.
I think even then he might have been doing a few gigs here and there. Yeah. But I think these days he's definitely doing a lot of that kind of stuff.
Well, that's why I want to talk to you, because you are an entertainer. You entertain the crowd as well as having the skills. And I should just pretty shout out to people who don't know. You got the silver medal. You were second in the whole world that year.
Yeah,
fantastic.
That's right. Second in the world. What do they call it? Individual expert male or open male.
Yes. Fantastic. I'm clapping and bowing. No one can hear. We'll see. There we go. So you're riding barefoot in that show. Is that something you always do or have done a lot of?
Yeah. I when I was a kid, when I was like 9 years old, learning unicycling, I wasn't very fond of shoes at all, and it was just my natural state.
Yeah.
And then as I got better at unicycling, I got used to sort of the direct contact with the pedals and wheel walking and other things. You could sort of grip it better, and and then I progressed to the point where I just took my shoes off to unicycle because that was my preferred style. I mean, so I ride with shoes on sometimes, but if I'm getting serious and I want to do all my best tricks, the shoes come off.
That's very interesting. I like that. What a tip. Because I sometimes I do birthday party shows in Hong Kong, and they won't let you wear your shoes indoors, and so I have to take off my shoes and do my unicycling in my socks. But because I don't do it very often, I find it really hard because I'm not used to it. My feet are feeling really strange. But you're saying there's actually advantages.
There are some tricks that I have steered against learning as much. Like, if you're doing a uni spin or something, it's pretty intimidating to do that in bare feet. Yeah. I have done that.
Yeah.
But there's certain tricks, but like wheel walking, gliding, most tricks you have better contact.
Yes.
And I tend to ride with the pedal in the middle of my foot, like the arch of the foot, rather than the ball.
Right.
And that sort of, I find that more stable.
That's very interesting.
Because the stability. Go on. Yep.
I've gone completely the other way. I mean, when I started, and before I was even trying to do things like uni spins, I realised I had to protect my whole foot and particularly my ankles as well. So ever since I started unicycling 25 years ago, every single pair of trainers has been high tops, shoes that protect the ankle. But you can do it without any protection.
Yeah, well, when I learnt Unispin, I put the shoes on to learn it.
Yeah.
But I didn't go with any shin guards or anything. Like, it was just shoes.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing.
And
also, I imagine, because you take your orange trousers off in that 2004 routine, not having shoes
Yeah.
on makes it easier to get the trousers off as well.
Yeah, that's true. And in routine since, sometimes I make a trip of taking my shoes off first before the pants.
Ah, brilliant, yes. I should explain to someone who hasn't seen the video, which will be posted in this podcast, that while you're riding a unicycle, you manage to take your trousers off without getting off the unicycle.
Yeah, that's right.
Amazing.
It's definitely fun.
Okay, your Tokyo act, I mean, it really stood out for me as a highlight, and it was such a crowd pleaser. So, does winning a second place at a Unicycle World Championships, does it have an impact on your career? Is there any useful follow-on from that?
Yeah, well, I definitely had follow-on from it, and there was a number of offers that came my way, mostly from unicyclists come and train with us here and there over the world.
Yeah.
But I didn't take full advantage of it, but I did go. One of the offers I took up was I went to the British Unicycling Convention in 2005.
Yeah.
As the guest international performer. I was the finale of the big show at the end, and I did a bit of a workshop, and they paid for my flight to fly there, and they put me up with billeting or whatever with different unicyclists around England.
Yes.
So that was the thing that came from it, and I stayed in 2015. I came to Hong Kong and stayed with unicyclists there who remembered me fondly from it. And my brothers and we do circus shows, and for the blurb, we're doing a circus show at a festival. We often did the Woodford Folk Festival years ago and saying second best in the world, national champion, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, it looks good on your CV.
People like that in the blurb.
Yeah.
It looks nice. You've got something to say. And people go, oh, I might come and watch the act. But I guess it's indirect, but there's definitely benefits. Like, people still remember me in the world of unicycling.
Yeah. How about your brothers? Tell me about your brothers, David and Terry, right?
Yeah, that's right.
What do they do?
Well, they're performing a fair bit. David's transferred to painting, like fine art most of the time, but he still does gigs as a juggler and that kind of thing. Terry's still more or less full-time. He does mostly street shows, but also other gigs. He's mostly a juggler, but he's more of a unicyclist than David is. But, he does Diablo, contact juggling, fire, tall unicycle acts, all of that kind of thing. Terry is still pushing that agenda quite strongly these days.
And are you the youngest brother?
Yeah, I am. I'm the youngest.
So were they an influence on you when you were growing up? Did they start first?
Yeah. When I was, I got my unicycle for my 9th birthday a few weeks early, back in, when was that, 94?
Yeah.
And Terry already had one for about 6 months or a year beforehand, and it was his suggestion, why don't you get Simon a unicycle for his birthday? And I think my parents and myself put in half my pocket money or whatever, got a $100 cheap Taiwanese unicycle.
Yeah, I know those things.
And then I just smashed the seat by falling off until I stopped falling off. We had a backyard with grass, sort of hold onto the tree, bare feet. The grass stopped growing in front of the tree of preference. And after a while, I got it. I've taught a lot of people to unicycle with workshops and so on. And I think I was the slowest to learn of anyone I've ever encountered.
Oh, really? Okay.
So it took me like 3 months to get it. I mean, I was 9 years old, but I after a week of hitting it pretty hard, I'd only made it like 6 pedals.
Yeah.
And I think I even I gave up for a little bit and thought, I'm not going to get it. And then had a chat with someone who encouraged me to keep going. And actually another thing I will mention is, this Woodford Folk Festival was a key part. Like Glastonbury is bigger, but it's meant to be the next biggest one in the world. And they've got a circus contingent there. And I was, as a kid, I went to circus training with Reg Bolton, Suitcase Circus.
Oh, I know him. Yeah, I've met him.
Yeah, he was... So that year, 94, 95, Christmas, New Year, where they have the festival, I got my birthday's in October. I had the unicycle for 3 months, and I still couldn't really ride it. And I met him there, and I went in the show at the end of the week of the festival, and like there's photos I can find somewhere of Reg holding my shoulder, going around the circus tent.
Wow.
Sort of the first 95, the first time I performed on it, and then each year he came back until about 99, so 4 or 5 years, and I had the motivation to try to do better tricks to show him the next year. Because he was really encouraging. He would say, "You can do better than that." So he didn't put me down, but he was telling me what was possible, and I was inspired to push it. And so he's really important in my unicycle journey. And
Wow.
and then by 99 or so, when he didn't do the workshops anymore, I was already pretty shit hot on it. And by 2001, I competed nationally for the first time and won the freestyle. And then biannually, I went again, 2003. And then 2004, I was in really good form. Went to Unicon. I went to the nationals again in 2005. And yeah, so I really focused on the freestyle. Nationally, I was pretty good with the racing and other stuff too. But internationally, I wasn't really competitive with the 100-meter sprint or whatever.
All right, let's just jump into a few bits and pieces. Reg Bolton, small world. I've met him when probably about 1994, 95. He was in Singapore for a little while. I've actually met him. So Reg Bolton, he wrote Circus in a Suitcase. Is that the book?
Yeah, he did that.
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah.
And he did. He got a PhD in circus about how circus is a useful development tool for young people.
Brilliant. Good guy. Excellent. I'll put him in the notes,
Yeah.
his name. People should check him out.
Yeah. He sadly he passed away 2006, but I went over there in Perth and performed unicycling for the wake.
Fantastic. Good for you. How about your parents?
So-
Are your parents in any way involved in the arts, performance? Where does this come from in your family?
Well, we actually did homeschooling, so we had a fair bit of time on our hands to find our creative endeavours, and we're encouraged to.
Yeah.
So that was the main contribution to it.
Okay.
You know, they allowed us to practice. Yeah,
Yes.
like I was at home learning unicycling, and yeah, so they weren't really artistic, but
You had the time and the opportunity. They gave you the time and the opportunity. Yeah. Here's my other question. You mentioned you teach unicycle workshops. Do you have any special techniques for teaching someone how to unicycle?
One trick I would say that's pretty good advice is
yes.
especially when they're still getting there, having a straight back is critical to the balance on a unicycle.
Yeah.
But when you think straight back, it doesn't really work. So what I tell people is to look at a spot at eye level in the distance, like look at that signpost over there.
Yeah.
And if you look at somewhere in the distance, you have a straight back. Because what I find, especially when they're sort of medium level, getting a few pedals, they look at a spot on the floor, and then they continue to hunch over as the spot approaches, and they fall when they get to it.
Yes, they do, yeah. That's a good point. I like that.
So look at a spot in the distance, like that's eye level. Sort of like, look at that person over there, the other side of the hall, 100 metres away. Aim for them, or whatever.
Yeah, look at a spot in the distance. I like that. That's a good one. When did you learn to juggle? When did you learn to juggle?
When did I learn to juggle? I think I was trying to learn to juggle before I was learning to unicycle, but I didn't have much luck to begin with. But yeah, so around the same time, like when I was definitely juggling fairly confidently in 96, 97 when I was getting into unicycling properly. Like there's photos of me somewhere when I was 12 doing juggling knives on a 5-foot unicycle back in 97.
Yeah.
So I guess I could probably pull out 3 balls and have some luck with it by 95.
Now, I've only ever seen you do your unicycle routine in Tokyo in 2004. So, what do you do with juggling in your show?
The main juggling act that I have is we have a recurring gig every year with a medieval festival. And I've got like a jester's costume with like bells and the donkey hat, whatever. Yes. And I do a 3-club routine and talk to the audience and like sort of drop them on my head and jump around. But I swing the club around and bounce around on one foot, and I kind of I do a few tricks in it. Like I do like a multiplex and a flourish and high throw and like a spin underneath, like a pirouette underneath the throw and the big finale at the end.
Cool.
But it's only like a few minute routine.
Right.
I mean, sometimes we've done shows with my brothers. Me and Terry will pass 6 clubs from 2 5-foot unicycles or taller unicycles, or like I think we actually did a TV commercial where we borrowed some 10-foot unicycles and we were advertising the transition lenses or something. We made it like a split of a second on the ad. I could dig that up if you
that'd be great.
wanted.
Yeah.
That was like 2014 we did that one.
Yeah.
And most of my gigs throughout the last years as a professional have actually been with balloon art.
Yes, this is my next question. Synchronicity. Is it true you're named Best Balloon Artist on the Sunshine Coast? How did you get that title?
Well, one of my peers said it to me. There wasn't a competition, but there's a guy who I used to do a lot of balloons at the Yamundi markets, which is north of Brisbane near Noosa.
Okay.
They have a market there. I learned how to do balloons there, and while I was there, he was like, "You're the best one on the Sunshine Coast. You're the best here." And I thought it sounded good to put in the CV. There wasn't a Sunshine Coast all-out competition, but he did say that he thought that my presentation was good, and I think my key strength with balloons is that I'm really fast, but I don't just do dogs. I do pretty good ones, very quick. So I've had a lot of experience in like shopping centre gigs where you have to give them away. And I try, kind of like with my unicycle routine in Tokyo and with balloons, my view is why compromise?
Yeah.
When you can have the presentation and the technique.
All right.
So like with the balloons, I want to make good balloons like the Little Mermaid, flowers, butterflies with 3 balloons. I mean, I don't make the awesome ones that have like 10 balloons in them, but maybe a maximum of 5 balloon figures.
Yeah.
But I don't take more than 2 minutes to do one, maybe 3 maximum. Like I can pop out a poodle in 20 seconds or whatever.
Yeah.
So I can deal with the crowd, but I don't want them to be crap. I still want them to have like medium quality at like super speed.
Yeah, so how do you deal with the crowd? If there's a massive queue and you've got a time limit, say you have to stop say you're hired from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock, and it's coming up to 5 o'clock, then there's still a massive queue. Have you got any tips? Because that is a perennial problem for balloon twisting, when there's still a massive queue.
I mean, I don't think there's an easy solution to that. I mean, I have gone overtime a number of times to just deal, like 15 minutes over just to deal with it. That's probably not the answer you want, but I find it really... Well, one of the things I do is once it's gone overtime and there's no end of kids, I just start making quicker balloons and just try to reason with them that I really have to go. It's past the time. And I don't want to leave anyone unhappy. I don't want parents to complain or the kids to complain. I'll usually have a balloon hat on my head, and the last one on my way out, I'll say, "Hey, you can have this one," and I don't have to make a new one.
Yeah.
And I escape. Sometimes at some gigs, like the people who owned the not me, but the people that were working there actually made a sign that said end of the line, and made it like a block off with a rope or something. But usually I just have to, I usually wait until there's a lull, give away quick ones, and then just flee.
Yeah,
as quick.
just plan your escape
There's a
when you
window.
see the moment. Yeah, plan your escape when you see the moment.
Go on. Yep.
My only other tip I've heard some people say, probably Australia's too politically correct, but in places like Hong Kong and Singapore where I work, you can give out candies to kids still. And if there's a big queue in Hong Kong, I can say, oh, here's some candies instead. I've got to go now, and that's fine in Hong Kong.
Oh, that sounds like a good tip. I don't know whether we could, giving candy out here might be a bit difficult.
You could probably do it with stickers. I think stickers would work in a politically correct country. You could give out stickers, probably, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when the queue is still active and I don't have to leave, you just have to make eye contact with the people at the back, ask the next person what they want while you're making this one, and sometimes you ask them what colours they want and you give them the unblown up balloon with that colour, and that kind of helps keep their place in the queue.
Yeah.
And you don't always do them in direct order. Sometimes if someone wants something really quick and they're behind, you make that so that they're gone.
Yes, I agree. All right, that's doing balloons. Do you say your brothers talk a lot, have patter in their act, but you don't talk much? Is that right?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, when I'm doing the balloons, I talk to them, but I feel like that's a conversation with like me and a small group of people.
Yeah.
Whereas on the stage, when I'm in a stage show, usually the two of them is enough. With my juggling routine I talk about as the jester character, he talks to the audience, but that's a constrained, like that's like that's a walk around routine rather than a show.
Right, yeah.
It's sort of,
Have you ever had to wear a microphone whilst riding a unicycle? I've had sometimes problems with that.
I haven't actually.
Lucky.
I don't think I have.
I've had times when I've requested a handheld microphone, wireless, and they give me a massive microphone on a massive cord. So I'm up on a 6-foot unicycle with a huge cable dangling down. That's tricky.
Yeah. There's definitely been a few interesting experiences. Like, my unicycle routine is supposed to be like Unicon standard competition is 10 by 14 meter square.
Yeah.
Whereas I've had to do routines on like 1 by 1, maybe 3 by 3 meter stages, or where there's the drum kit is still there, or if you're doing a party in Australia around here, often it's in someone's backyard on the grass and there's like a hills hoist.
Yes.
Clothesline in the yard and it's not level, or a circus that's got a like bumpy ground on sawdust with like a weird mat on it.
Yeah, it's very tricky sometimes. Makes it so much harder if the ground's bumpy and there's no space. So much harder.
Yeah, you have to drop down some of the tricks you do, or you have to just struggle on. But that's what it's like when you're doing a professional gig. You can't have the ideal conditions.
Yeah, you can't. Because it's not going to happen.
No.
How do you prefer to play your background music? Do you you have music to your shows, to your unicycling routine? Do you have
I have. Like, you mean in terms of sound equipment?
Yeah,
or
sound equipment. Yes.
Is there usually I borrow if I don't have the equipment at the gig. My brother Terry has a range of portable, like can amps and things like that. And if I have to use one, I'll usually use one of his. It's a hobby of his to make street performer amps.
Wow.
And, I like make it inside a suitcase put the components together. And usually if I have to bring my own, I'll usually borrow one of his ones because he's doing street shows all the time, circle acts where he talks to the audience, has the radio mic and all that kind of stuff. And I don't do it enough that I have my own. Maybe he's lent me some. Yeah. But usually, I used to have a CD, but I think you have to have it on MP3 these days.
Yeah. Have you ever gone?
I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. Have you ever gone on a stage and then the music doesn't play? That's happened to me sometimes.
Yes. Well, the first time I was competing nationally with the freestyle, my music started stuttering and stopped, and I had to reboot the routine.
Yeah.
And I think doing performances, we used a few years back, maybe 10 years ago, we were doing pirate gigs a lot around Pirates of the Caribbean was popular at the time, and there was a underwater world. Is like you can see the fish swim over top of you with like tunnel, whatever. It's one of those kinds of places, aquarium, tourist attraction in the Sunshine Coast there, and we had gigs there every holidays for a year or two. And anyway, I remember having to talk through unicycling routine a few times when the batteries went out or something. And I have like a different routine if you're talking through it, where you go like, I'm going to ride from here to there without moving my legs, and then I hop across, or a trick that I can do, a trick that was meant to be one of my signature tricks that Reg Bolton was interested in, is I can ride without bending my knees. So I put the seat out in front and crank the seat left and right, and like my ankles sort of roll a little bit, but my knees stay straight.
Oh, cool.
And without bending my knees, and then without using the pedals, and wheel walk across, and maybe I'll do seat drag across as the final one or something like that. Yeah. And so I have talked through that, but I still think that that's like roving rather than it's not the same as me introducing the finale and talking to the volunteer and making all the jokes that everyone makes.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to be adaptable. I've had times, that happened to me a couple of times where I came on stage and the music stopped or something, or didn't start. What I normally do is I say, play the music first and then I'll go on, so at least I know it started to play. But then even then, sometimes, I remember back in the day I used to have what they called a mini disc player, which no one knows about anymore.
Oh yeah,
a mini disc player.
Those.
And for some reason it played on most sound systems, and then there was one sound system which one event company used, and you get halfway through and it would just suddenly become inaudible. And that was, I'd never worked out that. But yeah, you just got to adapt and do something else if the music's not working.
Yeah, you just have to. There's no, what do they say about the show going on?
The show must go on, yeah.
There's no escape. You know, like I've had my unicycle tyre either break or be in almost breaking while I'm on. Like I had to do a roving gig and I hadn't moved the tyre for a while, and then the tube is threatening to come out, so I have to like spend a lot of time on the wrong with the wrong leg down, so I'm idling with it different place.
The unit. Yeah, I think it's bringing back some horrible memories of me. For me, I think I've done a show where the seat post wasn't screwed in tightly enough, and hadn't got a So I started doing my show, and my saddle started moving one way, and the wheel was going the other.
Yeah. Oh no, it reminds me. I did do a trick like that once when I had a seat adjuster. I like took the seat off while I was riding, put it back on again.
That's good.
But you don't want that to happen without asking it to happen.
Yes. I didn't have a quick release bolt on my unicycle at that time, so there was nothing I could do really. I needed a spanner to tighten it. I couldn't do it by hand.
Yeah. I've got Allen bolts on my unicycle now just because the seat post. If you're doing stand up, hopping on the wheel or that kind of trick, it just bashes. It's brutal to your shins and knees.
Yes.
If you have adjusters, so. And I don't really loan my unicycle to other people, so I have it at a height I like, and I don't even know where the Allen key is. It's just, there it is. It's in place.
Yes. Good tips. I like that. Yeah. If you do have a quick release on your unicycle stem, it'll sooner or later grab the calves of your leg or something as you're doing a trick, and that's painful.
Yeah, it's not fun. It's way better to just get rid of that.
Yes.
I mean, if you're a kid or something and you're learning, you're going to get taller and you're going to need to adjust it.
Yeah.
Like when I was a kid, other kids learning, we had to hacksaw the post down because I was too short to reach the pedals.
Yeah.
So I had to actually manually remove some of the posts.
I've done that for my girls, my kids. I've done the same thing.
Yeah, because getting it low enough, especially if it's a 20-inch unicycle. Like if you have a 16-inch wheel, maybe it's more kid-friendly. But when when I was 8 years old, I was pretty small. So
you need a tiny seat post. You do.
Yeah.
At Tokyo, in your 2004 routine, you had an assistant passed you a sign halfway through the act. Do you still have an assistant to come and bring you a sign?
No, I haven't used that part of the routine for a while now. But I don't think anyone could read what the sign said. But it said, "Oh no, my pants are inside out." I actually went to the trouble of getting translation to write it in Japanese as well. So I had it in English and in Japanese. And it was just one of the German unicyclists I'd socialised with throughout the week. And I said, "Hey, can you be my assistant for the day?" And I think I asked someone who didn't want to do it. I asked someone else who did want to do it. So there was... another thing about that routine in 2004 was that I released my long hair when I got into the bodysuit.
Yes.
And I'd actually kept my hair in my hat for the whole week up until the routine.
So what a big surprise. What a big surprise, yeah.
A surprise for everybody
again,
to know I had this hair.
I'll post the video. This is a surprise because you've got no idea that you've got a massive long mane of hair, and when you do the costume change and then you take off the hat, boom, this hair just explodes out, and it's very long.
Yeah, the audience exploded as well. It was like, it was a real rush to do that. And I've been working so hard on that routine before then.
Yeah.
I think about a year beforehand, I stopped learning new tricks and just started to consolidate the tricks I could already do.
Yeah.
And then for about 8 months before the act, I did about 3 or 4 hours a day, 3 or 4 days a week.
Wow.
So, because you don't get a second chance when it's a competition.
Yeah.
I mean, as a performer, you don't get a second chance either, but in that context,
yes,
you only do your average. You don't do your best. You don't do the best you can do. I had to try and do it, like run it 10 times in a row, and try and like what I was doing is I was running the routine, and if I had to step off, I started from the beginning again.
Wow.
And that's what I was doing for 3 or 4 hours a day.
Yeah.
Over that 8-month period.
Amazing.
I was working pretty hard to get to that standard. So when everything goes wrong and you're all surprised and you're on the day and the light's in your eyes and you're jet lagged and confused, your body knows how to do it.
Yeah. Amazing.
And it runs.
It was a really good routine. It's still in my mind. I can remember it. Do you prefer solo work or working in a group with your brothers?
I think I like to work by myself. I mean, then I don't have to, because it can be a bit tricky working with family, mixing family and business.
Yeah, I bet.
So that's sort of like the family, the brotherly dynamics don't fully remove just because it's work as well.
Yeah.
So I find that that can be a little bit challenging. I think I like doing shows, and I've only really done shows with my brothers, so in that sense I prefer it. But when it's showing up to a gig, I don't have to ask anyone if they're ready when it's time to leave. I don't have to, I'm the only one that's answerable to anything, and I like that autonomy.
Yes.
But it's still good to work with my brothers.
Yeah, I agree. I follow the same thinking as you. Most of my work is solo because it's just easier to organise the logistics, deciding what if I want to change the routine halfway through a show. I don't have to try and whisper to someone else, I'm going to do this routine now. I can just do it and it works fine.
Yeah. Exactly. That's.
But on the other hand, when I do get to work in a group and I'm part of a group, and I got a small part in a big group, I always enjoy that as well. I do like that.
Yeah, it's kind of like you get all the freedom, if it's just you, but you don't have to shoulder all of the responsibility if it's a group.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So you can just do your part.
Yeah.
And you're out of there.
That's right.
So so there's benefits to both, but on balance, I think having that independence is pretty precious.
What are the origins of the name Simon the Mighty?
Well, Terry, my one of my older brothers, David's the eldest, but Terry's the one above. He was already calling himself Terry the Great.
All right.
And I was like, well, if you're going to be Terry the Great, I'll be Simon the Mighty.
What is your favourite?
It was as simple as that.
Yeah. What is your favourite kind of act? Do you prefer stage shows, circus shows? Do you prefer your balloon show? Do you prefer street shows? Do you like corporate work? Have you done kids shows? Do you have a favourite thing that you like to do?
Honestly, I think I had the most satisfaction from when I was doing the corporate balloon gigs.
Right.
But like in the shopping centre. I think that's the one that I think that's what my skills are most professional at doing.
Right.
So, and I mean, the pay is better if it's corporate than if it's circus or kids parties or whatever. Mm-hmm. So that's part of the favourable feelings. But I think I like dealing with the public, and I like that I can give them something for free, but I'm still being compensated well for it.
Yeah.
And I also like I like being creative with the balloons, like making new things up on the spot for them or improving them. And I get a lot of chance to practice different ideas when I've, doing 5 hours and having to do 200 or more balloons with the cue constantly. Yeah. And I don't know, I feel like I get a bit of a rush from having to work that fast. Like being in that pressure when I do have the skills to back it up is exciting.
Yeah. Any tips for a balloon artist? How do you carry your balloons? Do you have any special ways of carrying the different colours? Do you have any favourite pumps or backup pumps?
Well, always have a backup pump.
Yeah.
It's not a good idea to blow it up yourself. I used to do that. I think I hurt myself doing that when I was younger.
Yeah.
I just never blow them up myself anymore. But I have a kind of organic ecosystem with my balloon bag. I mean, I know a lot of people have ring loops around and the different colours in different sections. That's probably a good idea.
Yeah.
But I just sort of I like to get a 250 mix of good colours and then individual packets of different favoured colours and mix them around. I kind of know where, like, there's key colours that you really need to know where are, like white, maybe for Elsa's hair or something, that's in a separate section. But
black as well. Sometimes a lot of balloons look
black as well, because black and purple are always hard to tell the difference.
Exactly, yeah.
But I tend to go with more of a lilac purple or neon purple these days, so I don't have the
problem.
The purple that looks like black as often.
Yeah.
But I like a two-way pump. Like there's little green ones we get. I mean, it's Politics brand, I think, because I don't know. I mean, I've read online you can get like electric pumps with air compressors and so on, and that's probably a good idea, and like a custom apron or whatever, but I just have a bag over my shoulder, pump in my pocket. I've got a balloon cutter so that I don't have to try and break it or bite it or use scissors or something. It's like a little cutter that I put on my belt.
What is your balloon cutter then? Is it a knife? Is it a...
I bought it from another balloon artist who got it from overseas, but it's like a little blue plastic clip that clips onto your belt, and it's got a little razor blade in it that there's like a plastic path so that the sharp bit isn't in any danger, and you just follow the balloon, like pull the balloon down to the cut.
Brilliant.
So, I'm not saying that very well, but I think you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's good. I've never heard of that before. I've never heard of that before. Balloon cutter. I like it.
Yeah. And like if you need to break it in two parts, you just smash the balloon down over your waist or on your bag where the cutter is.
Yeah.
And then you've got two balloons. Because you're always separating bits and pieces. Like, I don't know, I know I'm always doing that. Like when I make this, if I make Elsa, I have to separate it so the arms are separate and the arm and the head are separate, and then the dress and the hair and whatever it is. Yeah. But I think she's not as popular now as she was a few years ago.
Yeah, the trends changed, don't they? Yeah, I remember when I started, I could make things like Donald Duck like 20 years ago, and then it was Elmo. He was very popular, and then the last few years, Frozen, Elsa has been great. But yeah, they come and go with the trends.
Yeah, I think Elsa is still in the wings, but I think Ariel, Little Mermaid, who was always number 2 to Elsa, has reclaimed number 1 spot for little girls. And but another thing I will say is that blue that is Elsa, dress, Elsa dress, that is still good for girls after Frozen.
Oh.
Even if Elsa isn't, I feel like more girls want that blue with their flower or something else.
Yes, I like that, yeah. When I do balloons, and I don't do a lot of balloons, I refuse to give out any pink balloons. I don't refuse, I just don't have any pink balloons. Because I find that once I start giving out pink balloons, once I start giving out pink balloons, then the girls will come back and they'll want to change their purple balloon for a pink one, or change their green one for a pink one.
Yeah, Pink is very popular. I mean, these days, when I do a balloon gig, rather than having the red suit, I've got the same kind, only a pink one.
Yeah.
So I like to have the pink suit and lots of pink colour, just so that the girls will all like pink. Usually the boys won't want pink.
Yeah.
But if I'm wearing pink, that means the boys can have pink if they want it, and I'm sort of demonstrating that possibility.
Yeah. Tell me about Glow in the Dark Unicycling show. You've done one, have you? With ETC Circus. Is that?
I think they might be making that up.
They made that up.
I think they might be making that up.
I love it. You are on a lot of Australian circus websites, a lot of Aussie circus websites. Your name is in there somewhere.
Yeah, like I've got a number of different agents. Some of them come good and give me gigs. Some of them, they just seem to have my profile on there.
Yeah.
But you got to kind of spread it around.
How do you get work in Australia? Sorry, how do you get work? How do you get work? What's your best way of getting work in Australia?
Well, I mean, I think word of mouth ends up trumping everything else.
Yes. Yes, I agree.
I mean, I had for a while there, I had an agent that was getting me a lot of these shopping centre corporate gigs, and that was good. That was keeping me out of trouble for ages.
Yeah.
But most of my other agents, it's like an annual gig or...
Yes.
But I mean, because we've been doing it for so long, for ages, the momentum had just built from previous gigs, and people call you for next year, and, having your card and all that. Although I haven't been pushing gigs as hard in the last recent time. I've been busy pursuing a few other things. Mm-hmm. So I'm actually in the process of working out how am I going to chase up a bit more work. I printed some new cards. I rebranded my performance as just Simon the Balloon Man rather than Simon the Mighty, just because I was only really looking for balloon gigs, at least with that card. So I wanted to make it as clear as possible. And like I have a Facebook, Simon the Balloon Man, but I haven't really played the game to upload the pictures regularly and work it out. Like old school, when we were getting all the gigs, there was no Facebook professional page.
Yeah.
And I realised that most people that are getting most of the gigs have engaged properly with the modern techniques, and that's what I think is looking at me as the most obvious step to boost the business.
Yeah, but you are right. Word of mouth is been perfect. It's a really good way. I mean, you do a good show where you're allowed to, mention your name, and then people will find you and track you down and book you for more and more stuff. Word of mouth is great. It's really good.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the key that we've always used.
Yeah.
Like, it's just you get a few gigs somewhere and then the momentum builds. People are calling you every year. That's, yeah. And also, I mean, like, I've joined a Queensland Balloon Twisters Facebook page, and people are offloading gigs if they can't do it. And if you put your hand up, you can get a gig through that kind of like private networks on there. Like that. I've got a few gigs that way recently, but I wouldn't say like that's the key way, but that's an easy way to get a gig if you like just want to find one. Oh, I haven't had one for a while. Oh, they're giving one away. Like, yeah, if you network successfully with your peers, you can be kind to each other.
Yes.
So that's another way.
Yeah, build trust with your peers and respect, and then you can pass gigs between each other. Yeah, good idea. How long have you been performing for? Since the 90s, is that right?
Yeah. Like, I think my first paid gig was in 97 when I was 12 years old.
Oh, brilliant. And has the scene in Australia changed a lot since the 97? That's 20 years ago.
Well, I think there was almost no one doing street theatre in Brisbane or the Sunshine Coast when we started. Like, Reg Bolton, he came from overseas. Like, he's from the UK originally, and he kind of brought circus to, like most of the pros that are working now, a lot of them learnt from him when they were kids. Yeah. From the 70s onwards. And before that, like, we had Expo 88 in Brisbane. I was 3. I went, but I can't remember it. But that was the first time Brisbane, Queensland had ever seen a street performer, basically. Yeah. And it's been, like, the culture has been gradually building. Melbourne, they know what a street performer is better than here, but I don't know, like Facebook, like what I said before, you could, I haven't done it, but you can do a webinar to learn balloon techniques from people that you met in a balloon convention in the US or something. Yeah. When I was learning, there was a book. Yeah. I got a couple of books, and I also was cute and little and asked some balloon guys, how do you do this or that? And they told me, but there was no internet, basically. Yeah. So the internet has changed everything, and there's, like, you can go to circus school at university in Australia now, in Melbourne. You can, there's, you see circus people on Australia's Got Talent, or, you know what I mean, like, there's people, it's more visible, there's more competition, more people, more...
Yes, there seems to be quite a lot of circus skills, workshops and schools in Australia pumping out performers who can do...
I think it kind of keys in a little bit with, like, Australia has a very strong sports culture generally, and lots of outdoor activity, because, the weather's good for it most of the year, or all of the year in Brisbane. So, like, I think parents are looking for other after-school activities, and I think there's quite a few people teaching that, at least for the kid level. And, like the Circus Festival, I didn't go, but it was on last weekend. Terry went there, National Circus Festival, where there's a lot of performers meeting. I guess that's more of a in-industry rather than public thing, but I think there's public weekends after a week of training. But, yeah, I think that as a performer, one feels less alone now than they did 20 years ago.
Yeah. All right. Brilliant. Now, this may be totally irrelevant, but it's on one of my questions here. It says, what is the cultural officer at Scenic Rim Regional Council? Does that ring any bells to you at all?
Oh yes. Sounds like LinkedIn. Yeah, so I've got a casual job for the Scenic Rim Regional Council, and they have an arts venue there in this town. It's like maybe 100 k's west of Brisbane City, Bow Desert there. There's the centre. It's just a small town of like 4,000 people or something, but it's they've got an art gallery in there and a venue that does stuff for the local community mostly. I've seen some of my peers that do circus shows come and do a show there or kids' workshops, but most of the time it's any number of events.
Well, I must say it's an honour. I must say it is an honour, to speak to the cultural officer in person. Thank you very much.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, so I'm basically a venue staff member.
Yeah.
Like, the people that wear black and scurry around and make it work.
Yeah.
Set up, pack down. But I did manage to, when I've been sort of trying to build up other incomes apart from just performing, I've managed to get this one, which is still within the arts and events and that kind of thing. So I'm trying to sort of build a few baskets and a few eggs, and try to kind of make it cohese with the narrative.
Oh, it makes sense. It makes sense. You just you need like an income triangle, and you'll get certain money from your performances, balloon twisting, but you need to have other things as well in case the balloon twisting isn't bringing any shows for a month or two. You need other stuff.
Yeah.
As an artist,
it's
you need to have
more
lots
of what do you call it, a drought, flooding, or, what I mean? It's seasonal. It's like this weekend I have to say no to gigs, and then, several weeks there's nothing.
Exactly,
or
exactly.
The agent that had come good isn't good for some reason. Because, you don't usually get a contract for more than just today. I mean, some people get, recurring contracts with a venue or something as a cafe gig every week or something, but most gigs are just this weekend.
Yeah.
And then if you're good, but you're only as good as your most recent gig, you've got to make sure there's no room to be sick or to not show up or to get confused. You have to be A game every time.
Yeah.
Because I can't remember the one before the one you just did.
Yeah.
And you just have to try to be on top every, you can't chuck a sickie with gigs.
Yeah.
Maybe if you can pull in a mate. But, I found I actually went to, I did a master's a few years ago in creative industries, arts management, and one of my teachers there pointed me to a book called Career Solutions for Creative People.
Oh.
And the subtitle is How to Balance Artistic Goals with Career Security. And it had the concept of a lifeline career and your creative practice, and using both to support you so that you can, if your gigs or whatever, your creative practice is not your only source of income, you have a bit of part-time gig somewhere else, it takes a bit of the pressure off.
Exactly.
And you can say no to some gigs. If it's your only trick, which it used to be for me for years and years, I never really had other jobs. Growing up, it was always all in, one egg, one basket, and I've been trying to diversify out of that. But this concept of being able to develop your creative practice safely, knowing that you've got the rent or whatever from the other thing.
Yes.
You can sort of, you can take risks and sort of improve your practice if it's not your only trick.
Simon, brilliant. So I'm going to put that in the notes. Career Solutions for Creative People. Yeah?
Yeah.
And
it's Dr. Rhonda Ormond. So that's RONDAORMONT.
Excellent. Simon, thank you so much for talking to me. That's brilliant. Thank you.
No worries.
Before we leave, if someone wants to check you out online, what's the best way to find you online?
I think the Facebook Simon the Balloon Man is probably, even though I need to get on there and update it, but it connects to me directly.
Excellent.
That's my best internet presence for now.
So people, go and check him out. Simon the Balloon Man on Facebook.
Yeah, and I'm newcircus@gmail.
Okay.
They need to email me.
Oh, yeah.
I managed to get that one. I thought that was pretty good. I think Reg Bolton had a book called New Circus.
Your newcircus@gmail. That's a good one. Yeah, very nice.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So there you have it.
Brilliant, Simon. Thank you so much. Cheers, man. My pleasure.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Bye.
We'll be in touch. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Take care, Simon. Bye-bye.
No worries. See ya. I finished the routine, and I came and joined, continued to watch the rest of the acts.
Yeah.
And then the director of the Japanese Unicycle Association comes up to me and says, Simon, there are many people waiting for your autograph. I haven't had that experience before or since, but that was pretty amazing. Like, that was a real buzz. It was a fantastic memory.
Brilliant. Love it.